What is up, boys? So today we are back with another video. I think this is going to be a fun one because I like some of your comments and also some of your input. And this is a very heavily debated list. I'm sure, I'd like loads of the alter egos. But I do believe that, the top five I picked, some of them, maybe 4 and 5 could be interchangeable. But I definitely think, the top three are some of the most requested alter egos. So yeah, this video will be the top five alter egos that are a must-have and that hopefully EA do add into UFC 5, and I will be going in a particular order here. So the fifth most kind of wanted alter ego for me would be Strikeforce Luke Rockhold. This is when he was a champ in the middleweight division in Strikeforce, as you can obviously tell. I believe he won the belt off of Jacare Souza. I could be wrong. But yeah, he was just an absolute killer. We all know, obviously, at the early, when he moved from Strikeforce as well, he was beating up loads of people. Obviously, took out the likes of Bisping, choked him out, and then went on to become champion in UFC. I think it'd be a killer addition into the middleweight division, because just in the UFC, the middleweight division is somewhat lackluster around grapplers as well, like that. And I feel like Luke could not only strike with the best, such as Israel Adesanya and Pereira, obviously not as well as them, but with better health stats as you would there in this version, he'd also then be able to grapple, unlike Israel Adesanya and Pereira. So I think he'd be able to add something new that we kind of don't have in that division, and I think we're kind of missing it. So now let's get into the fourth most wanted one, and I believe that will be Tony Ferguson. I think that we need a Tony Ferguson alter ego, just because it's so depressing what's happening to him right now, and he needs something good. But yeah, and I think he'd be a perfect fit for the game with the new submissions. He'd have all the submissions. He'd be tricky. He deserves his great bottom game. He deserves amazing health stats. Just that kind of Terminator Tony Ferguson that he once was. I think in particular, his UFC 218 or 229 version, where he took out Anthony Pettis, I think was his kind of best version. Could also argue, when he fought Donald Cerrone, even though he didn't look amazing, he always picks it up, and definitely was towards the end of the first round. But yeah, he's just an animal. I think Tony could give him any sort of version. Obviously not the 7-fight losing streak version, but yeah, I think like I said, he'd fit into the lightweight division perfectly. I think he'd be able to fight Islam Makhachev's off, just be pesky on the ground in the bottom game, and then when it went up to the feet, he'd be able to pile on the pressure. And yeah, I think he'd be perfect for the lightweight division, as I said. And to be honest, he just need one. Tony needs an alter ego, like I said. Needs something to brighten up his time, because that losing streak isn't treating him so well. And here we go with number 2. You may have seen him. This will be WEC Dominick Cruz. And I think we need him especially because there is no bantamweight alter egos. I don't believe there's any alter egos underneath featherweight. Because we have obviously Conor's alter egos, Volk's alter egos. In lightweight we have Nick Diaz alter ego and stuff like that. In welterweight we have Leon Edwards alter ego. In middleweight we have Israel Adesanya, Pereira, and all that good stuff. But yeah, I think Dominick Cruz would probably be the best bantamweight if they gave him justified stats. I think and I think he'd be the most fun bantamweight as well. He can mix it up, and I do believe it kind of, unlike the middleweight division, there is a lot of strikers in the bantamweight, or there's a lot of grapplers in the bantamweight division, but there's not as many people that can mix it up and do it all, unless you're kind of wanting to use like the midgets like Cejudo, who can grapple. Cheeto, he has submissions, not too great grappler. Aljo, obviously, but kind of lacks down on the feet. But Dominick Cruz, a man that can do it all. He can take you down, hold you down, or obviously just dance around you and punch the face off you. And I think he'd be a really fun addition. I think everyone just wants him as well because unlike some alter egos that people want, I've heard Strikeforce Ronda and stuff like that, and although she would be cool, I don't think she'd make much of an impact on fighter selection. And I think this is the main thing with my top 5. I feel like they would be used, and they'd be thrown into the kind of the meta selection. They'd be used in competitive scene, they'd be used in the likes of ESFL. You'd be using them on ranked whenever you're really trying to get some nice wins. And yeah, I think I think he would be, if he added and done correctly with his stats, I think he'd be the best bantamweight in the game. And now this is arguably the most requested. I think he would fit into the game the best, and he'd be the most overpowered. But I gave number one spot to somebody just because his model is also much different, and he's also very requested. So on top of it, number two is going to be UFC 205 double champ Conor McGregor, and I'm giving it, and he is not number one. He's number one to me, but like I said, just based on the fact that his he doesn't have too much of a drastic change. Obviously, they definitely would need to fix up his model. They need to give him that fresh fade, as always. People always talk about, that haircut. Clean up his beard a little bit and just make him, give him them white gold shorts. I know, obviously, it's Reebok when he fought then, but give him some sort of a representation. Give him even Venom shorts, the white Venom with gold name on them. I think it'd be a perfect fit, and just to kind of change it out. And UFC 205 Conor, we all know how OP would he be. I mean, we have broken leg version of Conor in this game, and he's probably arguably the best striker in the lightweight division along with Dustin Poirier. But this version, motivated McGregor, karate stance McGregor, fresh fade McGregor. He has all the alter egos just thrown into one. I think he'd be by far probably the best striker in the game and the most fun to use character in the game as a whole. So yeah, please EA add him in, and everyone needs an updated McGregor model. They care about everyone's model except Conor's. They're the biggest star, and they've not nailed his model down once. So yeah, let's get into number one here. As I said, this is the most requested, I feel, based on his model change, and as well as that, it's just a classic version of him, and everyone loves this fighter, and it is WEC, although this may not come to a shock to most of you, and I'm sure maybe some of you are watching this list thinking, where's, you could argue Strikeforce Nick, which is an honourable mention. Frankie Edgar could have came in here. Alter ego for Robbie Lawler as well. Even an alter ego for Carlos Condit would have been nice. And there's definitely a lot of fighters, Tyron Woodley, all could have came into consideration here, but this is just my personal top 5, also taking into account some that are heavily requested, such as Aldo and 205 McGregor. And Aldo obviously be a lovely addition. I think given his prime stats, I think he'd also be a big player in the featherweight division, which I do not think he is at the moment. I feel like that's between Volk, Ilia Topuria, and the McGregor. The UFC, I believe it was 178 McGregor, the one where he fought Dustin Poirier, Ponytail Conor, as everyone calls him. But yeah, I think if Aldo was added, he got the little tash, he had the hair, if he was added correctly, I do believe that he would be a big player in the bantamweight division. And I think once again he would, along with Conor, along with Cruz, along with Tony, and now obviously Aldo. I think he'd be then crowned the most fun in the division as well. He'd not only be a meta fighter, but he'd also be extremely fun. Chopping down legs like it's nobody's business. He'd be able to take off heads. Takedown defense would be immense if you're trying to fight Ilia Topuria's, Alex Volkanovski's. You can piece them up on the feet, take their legs out from underneath them, and then sprawl and brawl. And I think he is by far the most requested, and I believe it is justified. Obviously, I think my personal favourite and my personal most wanted would be UFC 205 Conor. As I said, there were definitely a lot of honourable mentions. You could have went with Strikeforce you could have went with Strikeforce Cormier, Strikeforce Nick Diaz, considering they only added the version, I believe, that fought Takanori Gomi and Pride. You could have even double champ Cejudo. You could have double champ Cormier and Strikeforce Cormier, that kind of mix up of things. You could have, there's endless ones, to be honest, even if you wanted to have an alter ego of younger Max, because a lot of these, everyone always thinks just better versions of fighters, but EA definitely adding also 4-star variations, as we've seen, 4-star Sean O'Malley and stuff like that. And I believe they could also add a younger Max Holloway, even bald Dustin Poirier could be a direction that they go in. RDA that fought Anthony Pettis, I believe, would be a really, really cool addition. You could get younger Stephen Thompson. You could do a lot of alter egos and a lot of changes. Obviously, Robbie Lawler would definitely be one of my favourites as well. If they were to add him, I think he'd be a really fun addition, obviously, into the game. And he'd also mix up the welterweight division a lot, being new. be a new pick for a lot of people. And I think he'd be then personally my favourite welterweight, because I don't have a favourite welterweight at the moment. I'm just kind of going based on who my opponent's going. You know, if they're going Leon, maybe I'll go Usman or something like that. You know, but yeah, that'll be that. Please do leave who you want in the comments most. Maybe your top 5 or even a top 10 if you really have that many alter egos you'd like added into UFC 5. And yeah, appreciate us all for watching once again. And subscribe. Obviously, turn on the notification bell actually as well if you guys haven't already. And yeah, peace out.